Morning and welcome to Free Advice Friday. My name is Carrie Barnum for New Shelves Books, and we are here to talk about the business of being an author, publishing, marketing, the whole gamut. And we are taking questions live. You can join us Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern by going to newshelves.com/FAF. You can also watch replays over on YouTube, which is just New Shelves Books on YouTube. We do have a couple of questions live, so I'm going to take those first. And let's see what we've got today. Actually, speaking of replays on YouTube, Victoria is asking if I can't find an episode, I can find episode 202 and 204, but I can't find 203. So what you may be running into is anytime that I have a guest, those episodes tend to have a title, and then in parentheses, it will have an episode number. So that might be what it was. If you are looking for replays and you'd like to watch them in order, it might be because I had a guest, so it might have an additional name to it. But they should have been posted in chronological order. So you can just view newest videos and it should show up in that order. Let's see. Yes, Richard, I will do that after our call here today. Mark's question, what's the best way to reach parents and grandparents for books? So for parents and grandparents, we have this unique opportunity, not only through social media, and when we look at social media stats, I would say for grandparents, particularly, Facebook is by far the best option when we look at demographics of where the 55 plus crowd are on social media. Facebook is actually the largest platform for the 55 plus crowd. So Facebook and Facebook ads are fantastic. For parents, I would say, depending on the age range, if you've got maybe a little bit of a book for older kids, then I would say, again, Facebook, moving into Instagram a little bit. If it is something very YA heavy, I would say Instagram for sure, because that's where a lot of teenagers tend to dabble in for social media. And then if you've got something for really young kids, sometimes Instagram, because that's where the age shift went from where people were originally, Facebook was new and hot, and that's that age range. And then people who have younger kids sometimes will end up on Instagram more than Facebook. So those two options, but also think outside of that. Parents and grandparents are more likely to visit libraries, so libraries and library story times. Um, Bookstores still, of course, but I would say library story times, schools are a fantastic way to reach parents and grandparents. And I would also be thinking about media, magazines, shows, blogs that are specifically for parenting or grandparents. So look at the mommy blogs. There's a ton of those. There are actually a lot of influencers on places like TikTok. When we look at age demographics for women in particular, there is a huge audience of around 35 to 45-year-olds on TikTok. And a lot of those are moms and women. So you don't necessarily have to go, viral on TikTok and start doing that every day, but can you find someone who already has a platform for moms, for children, for, sharing things? And can you give them a free book? Can you get on a dialogue with them? Are there parenting magazines? There's actually a magazine called Parenting Magazine, or Magazine. So something like that would be a great opportunity. And those are the places I'd be going. But it really does depend on what type of book you have. If you have a children's picture book, then Storytime works fantastic. It works really well sometimes for ads. Now, if you have like a how-to, like how to do this with your child, how to break down social media, how to make online safety, then schools are going to be more interested. That's something a magazine you could probably write an article or something tying into. Interviews, of course, if you have a platform that way, but those are the initial ways that I would start looking, but it does depend on the book. What are the best days to post on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and X? So LinkedIn, it is encouraged that you post at least every 3 days. And I would say because LinkedIn is mostly a platform for um, uh, work collaboration. It's really more of a business platform. I would say that your best days are going to be during the week on Instagram. Uh, every day is actually encouraged, but at least 3 times a week, and the different times and days do change. I'm actually working on a new social media guide that has all of that information. That will be ready soon, and I will be sure to share it on Free Advice Friday for free. And that one, I just have to go through and proofread it. So I've just got to make time to proofread it. Um, Facebook is encouraged that you post once a day. And usually those days, it's really interesting. The 5 to 7 p.m. period tends to be very popular. And usually, again, every day of the week is encouraged. X, the same thing, although X tends to be early morning and later afternoon. So again, it also depends on your topic and who you're trying to reach. So that can also change different things. How many years can an author span successfully in a book without losing the reader's interest? That's a good question. I'm going to give you my opinion, and others may have a different opinion. But we have often seen where there's, a book that doesn't span a long period, but a series that does. It may go years over a character's life. So we certainly see that. But as far as one book, there are some books out there, they tend to be more literary fiction that will go from childhood all the way to being older, being at the end of one's life. And so we see that sometimes. Usually there's a span where maybe they start at a certain age and they're remembering back. Actually, we see that a lot in The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. The way that it starts is that there is a journalist who's getting an interview with this Evelyn Hugo, this very famous movie star kind of person. And she's going to interview her. And it starts with, you know, tell me about your childhood. And so she does. She talks about her childhood. And it goes all the way through all of her marriages, her relationships, until she's at this point in her life where she is later on in life. And that is very successful. It gives a lot of story. I think what you will see happen in these types of stories is that there are individual stories that are shown for each period of that person's life. If we're going year by year, it's going to get so boring. But if we say, in my 20s, I was a movie star and I remember this one time and, this amazing party and this and that, whatever, inciting incident, that kind of thing. And that was very typical. We've covered your 20s. Let's move on to your 30s. So it really depends, but I think it can be done well. I think it has to be crafted in such a way that it doesn't feel like it's skipping, but also, I was just telling another author this as I was reading through their manuscript. We need to know what happened through the entire storyline, but we don't need to see every minute that happened. And we don't need to know in detail how you made your breakfast. We need to know she ate breakfast and got out the door. That's fine. So I think it's one of those things. Again, it depends on the story, depends on the genre. It can be done and done well, but you have to know your genre expectations, and you also have to know your story and keep in mind your pacing. We don't want big black gaping holes of like what the heck happened, but also move that story along because we don't need every minute detail. Let's see. Does KDP expanded distribution just use Ingram Spark? Yes. Here's something that people in the industry don't often tell you, and a lot of them actually don't even know. When you use Amazon expanded distribution, all it is you are giving Amazon permission to upload your book to their Ingram Spark account. So Amazon or KDP is acting as a middleman or a middle person between you and Ingram Spark. This is why I'm not a fan of expanded distribution, because it means that you have a middleman. You lose some control. I promise you that when the terms are set and seeing the account it comes from, book buyers can tell that it's coming from Amazon. This matters if you want to get into retail stores or if you want more control of your book. Now, in order to list your book at Amazon and Ingram Spark, you need to have your own ISBN so you can upload to both places. If you have taken or plan to take the free ISBN from Amazon, then you can't upload that book to Ingram Spark because you don't own the print rights. In that case, using expanded distribution is going to give you a better reach. It's going to mean that your book gets into Ingram Spark. Now, it will get into Ingram Spark, but at a 25% discount and non-returnable. That'll work for libraries just fine, but it will not work for bookstores. They expect a 40% discount in returnable. So it really, again, it goes back to your purposes. I think it's easy enough to upload to Ingram Spark. It doesn't cost anything anymore to upload. So I think that if you have your own ISBN, you should be uploading to each individual platform to give you the most control and to cut out the middleman and make more money. So that's what I would do. But also for those people who are using print through Draft to Digital, Draft to Digital is sending your book to Ingram Spark. They're listing it there, and Ingram Spark is printing it. I always think it's funny. I had someone vehemently argue with me that the printing at Draft to Digital was superior to Ingram Spark. But I know for a fact because I talk to people, I got friends. I know that Draft to Digital's printing is done through Ingram Spark. So again, it's a middleman. Some people will choose to use Draft to Digital for print over Ingram Spark because the platform's a little bit more user friendly. They have a little bit more customer service, at least right now. So some people will choose to use that anyway. Again, with Draft to Digital, they set your print terms. You have no choice. It's non-returnable. They do set it at a 40% discount, which means that it's actually 55% on your end. Ingram takes 15%. So, and then Draft to Digital, of course, takes their cut. That's why they're in it, because it's business. They have to make a profit. So Ingram Spark for print on demand is one of the largest printers, and chances are that most print on demand sites are somehow connected to them. Now, KDP is different. KDP does have their own print warehousing and they have their own systems, but Ingram Spark and KDP are the two main ones. And many distributors or aggregators online are using Ingram Spark for printing. So, if you, for some reason, didn't like the print quality or something at Ingram Spark, going to one of those places is not going to get you different quality. You would need to change your settings or go to an offset print. If you upload to Ingram Spark, do you then uncheck extended distribution, or can you have both? You cannot have both because that would be double dipping. So if you upload directly to Ingram Spark, you would upload to KDP and Ingram Spark separately. You cannot choose the expanded distribution. If you currently have expanded distribution chosen on your book on KDP, then so it's different because it's already been uploaded to Ingram Spark with your title and your ISBN and all of that information. So what you have to do is you have to unselect expanded distribution, and then you have to put in a transfer request, requesting that the book be moved from KDP's account to your account. Because again, that's all Amazon's doing. They're uploading it to their own Ingram Spark account. And so what needs to happen is you need to say, I'm no longer authorizing you to print my book through Ingram Spark. And then you have to request that transfer. It can be super quick, but typically it's going to take 4 to 6 weeks for that process to go through, because once that transfer form is filled out by the author or publisher, then they have to, Ingram Spark sends that to Amazon for confirmation and approval that you are no longer using their services. But you can't do both because it would create a double listing for the book. And if you are doing this, you must own your ISBN. You cannot have taken a free ISBN from KDP, because again, KDP, it's free, but it comes with strings, meaning that KDP owns that that ISBN and the print and distribution rights for that ISBN, so you wouldn't be able to use it. And as far as the it's a transfer, it's a KDP Ingram Spark transfer addendum. Let me see if I can find it. It is. Here we go. It is actually pretty easy. I will even say the URL. It's ingramspark.com/LP/title-transfer. I will also drop it in the chat for anyone here today. But for anyone looking for it, again, it's ingramspark.com/LP/title-transfer. And you can do that transfer form. So, perfect. All right. So yeah, I think that the more control you have, the better off you will be having control of your business. As many of you know, I was not here last week because I was in Charlotte running a conference with Alexa Bigworth, and it was the Grow Your Author Empire conference. And one of the main themes, well, there are two big themes of the conference, and one was just collaboration, finding people to work with you. I think being an author and working in this space can be incredibly lonely. A lot of people don't understand it, right? You are authors who show up week after week here learning things, and it is still confusing for you. So your best friend at home who has nothing to do with books, if you're talking to them about publishing or writing and different things, not only may their eyes glaze over, but it's very confusing for them. And so it's hard sometimes to have that camaraderie and that collaboration in that way at home for writers. And so one of the things we really focused on was the collaboration aspect of finding people in your genre and how you can work together to lift each other up, where we're not against each other. We're not pitted against, if someone buys your book, they'll never buy mine. That's not how it works. So talking about how we can lift each other up and all succeed more. But one of the other main themes that we talked about was the fact that with publishing, it is my firm belief that if you treat it like a hobby, it's going to pay you like a hobby. You treat it more like a business, it's going to pay you more like a business. And so that's one of the things that we really did talk about. And that came up several times from what I was talking about. And I was talking about revitalizing a backlist and kind of making your old books sell more. You've already invested in them, you've already written them. How can you make more money in sales off of them? All the way to, we had Jenny Proctor, who is a romance author who just does amazing things. And she got to a point where in her career, she was writing and she was doing well. It got to the point where her husband needed to quit his job, and she needed her essentially hobby to pay her like a job. And so she really buckled down and started to look at her writing as a business. How much did she need to write? What kind of investment did she need to make in marketing and ads to get a return? How could she move this process along? And Jenny now makes a full-time salary off of her books. She is incredible. She like works full-time at writing. She writes every single day. She puts out about 4 books per year in the romance genre. And she's just doing fantastically well. But that didn't happen until she started treating this like a business, until she started taking control and started really looking at not just the easiest way to do something, but the best way to set it up for long-term benefit, for control, for income, and really looking at that and investing in herself with working with some people in the industry who knew things she didn't. And I think that's one of the things that we look at is, yes, it's really easy to click that expanded distribution button and get your book over to Ingram Spark. But for 20 more minutes, you can get your own Ingram Spark account. You can upload your own book, have full control, and not pay a middleman. I literally have a YouTube video that walks you screen by screen on how to upload a book on to Ingram Spark. It is not that hard. I promise you can do it. And it's just the difference of, how are you going to treat this? Or if you say, I'm not going to learn how to upload to Ingram Spark. Can you pay someone to do it so you still have more control? And I think that's one of the things for some people. For some people, it is a hobby. Writing a book every, 3 years, or writing something that they're just passionate about, it's a hobby. They enjoy doing it, they have a great time. Maybe they're even good at it, and that's fine. But you can't expect to earn a large income or thousands of dollars a month or even a year off of a book if you're not investing in it and learning the business of it. Now, whether you're a self-published author, if you're working with a hybrid even, or if you are a traditionally published author, I'll tell you, I have quite a few traditionally published author clients who they put in the work. They come to me and they say, I need a social media strategy. How am I going to get myself out there? My books are in bookstores because I have a traditional publishing deal, but how do I make them order more? How do I get more book signings or events? And it's that idea of, if you want to sell more, to make more, you have to treat it like a business. And that was just one of the things that we saw over and over again, is that you have to decide the path of your career. Just like anything, you can have a job that you kind of clock in, clock out, and you just do what you do, or you can say, hey, I want to make it to be a manager, or I have a dream to own a business, whatever it is, but it's going to be what you put into it. Very rarely, I won't say never, but very rarely does someone just get lucky. The whole idea of overnight success is always so funny to me, because usually it's years in the making. Maybe we see it, we didn't see this person really making waves, and then all of a sudden it feels like they showed up overnight, but it was probably years and years in the making. A really famous kind of example of this is E.L. James with the 50 Shades series. People are like, oh, she was an overnight success. She just went viral and then she got movies and all this stuff. No, guys, she was marketing her books hard, spending so much money to get herself and her books out there for years before that happened. She she wanted it to be her business, so she treated it like that. And sometimes I will say, when you invest in your business, sometimes it's a risk. It doesn't always pan out. You can have great ideas, you have to try things, but it is an investment. So I just think it's really important that we realize that very rarely does someone just get lucky. Does someone, a famous TikToker just happen to pick up my book and it just happened to go viral and now I'm famous? I won't say it never happens, but it very rarely happens. And even then, you had to spend the time to write the book and to publish the book for it even to get into the hands of that person. So I think that when we put action on ourselves, when we even take little steps to market ourselves or to do something well, like publishing, and taking the step of, hey, I think I'll put my book up on Ingram Spark and set the terms so bookstores can buy it. You never know when a bookstore buyer is going to find your book and decide, hey, I should have that on my shelf. It's the perfect, holiday title, whatever it may be. You don't know until you try, but it's about setting yourself up for success, because you certainly can't have success if you don't create the opportunity for it. So, all right, I'll get off my soapbox now and I'll answer the next question. You know me, I can't help it. All right. Asking about a narrator here. So the question is, if you want a narrator, how do you find one? Where do you start? So if we talk about audiobooks, there are a couple of options. If you're on KDP, I have to mention that for some accounts, it's still in beta testing, but for some accounts, KDP Virtual Voice is an option for some people. That is the AI voice. It's really quick to make a book, quite honestly. It's really, really quick. There are multiple voices to choose from. It will automatically create that audiobook in like 5 minutes, and then you could go through and listen to it and adjust some of the speech patterns if needed, or the words. So that is an option that would get your book up onto Audible only. It is marked that it was a virtual voice book. So that is listed right on it. And so that's an option. If I skip it, then someone's always going to point out and say, hey, you skipped this. So yes. The other ways to get a audiobook done is you can go and you can find a narrator, or you can find a audiobook production company, and you can simply ask them, hey, I have a book, I'd like to get a quote. I've worked with some amazing production companies, especially for books where we wanted dual narrators or we wanted a whole cast of characters. A production company is by far going to give you the best option there, because they are going to, yeah, you want 5 characters in your book? Great. Let me pull from here and here, and here are some auditions of this person, and let's go after them. And then they are project managing it for you to give you the finished audiobook. That is going to be more expensive. The more narrators you have, typically, the more expensive it is, the more work it is to patch in those different voices and things like that. But that is a producer's production company is the way to go. And again, I've had some great success with different companies there. If you are a single narrator, you're looking for a single narrator, maybe even like a 2 POVs, like a male and female POV, going directly to a narrator can work sometimes. Go listen to books in your genre. Go listen to the samples on Audible. Find a voice that you like. Then look them up. Sometimes they're uber famous and you're like, cannot afford that. But sometimes you just really love the voice that you ended up with and you can use them that way. So I think that is one of the things that you can certainly do, and find directly with a narrator. And a narrator, typically a voice artist, will, have different things in place if they do this. You do want to make sure you have a contract with their delivery dates and expectations, and always pay through a like third party site like um, Fiverr, PayPal, or all the options. Make sure that you have some tracking receipt. Because everyone's paying their narrators in a back alley with a bag of cash. I would expect most people are going to pay online, which is good. You want that paper trail. And then one of the other options is Findaway Voices used to have a platform where you could work with narrators on Findaway Voices or through Findaway Voices to get your audiobook narrated. They no longer have that. But ACX, the Audio Creation Exchange, which is Amazon's platform for audiobooks that puts out books.audible, does still have this option. So you can go onto ACX, you can create a account through ACX. It's free. It's just like a KDP account. You can create that, and then you can upload your book, and you can find a narrator directly through that platform, where you have to upload the book details. You have to tell them what kind of narrator you're looking for. You have to upload a sample, and then they will put it on their platform, and then people will send in their audition, and you can listen through those. And then essentially what it is, it's just a platform. You're still negotiating free fees, timeline, and all of that stuff, but it's a platform where you can find narrators. Now, this does not allow for dual POV or anything like that. It is a single narrator on ACX, but that is an option. Fee ranges range from doing a fee option range from doing a royalty share, meaning, hey, I'm a starving artist. I cannot pay you. However, I'm willing, if you read my book that I wrote, that we will share royalties. That is an option. If you do that, you must go through Audible, or I'm sorry, ACX, and be exclusive to ACX, which means that the book is going to be up on Audible and iTunes, but it is exclusive to Audible and ACX. It cannot be uploaded other places like Overdrive for libraries, or Chirp Books for discount and different things like that. So that is one option, especially if you're on a tight budget. The other option is you pay per finished hour, meaning that it is per finished hour of audiobook. And they will tell you, based on your book, your number of words, and your page count, we believe your book will be 9 hours and 57 minutes. And that will cost approximately X amount. per finished hour. And they have a range. So when you're setting up and looking for a narrator, they have a range where you can choose pricing that you're comfortable with. So you can put out your auditions for narrators that charge between 50 and 100 an hour, those that are from 150 to 250, 300, 400, that kind of thing. There's preset ranges, and I don't remember exactly what they are, but they start as low as $50 after just that royalty share option. Now, some of them will say, hey, my usual fee is 200 per finished hour. So if it's a audiobook that's 10 hours, it's $2,000. But I understand that you're like on a budget crunch. You may be able to say, okay, would you do it for 100 per finished hour with a royalty share, meaning they're going to earn money off of each audiobook sold. So there is some leeway on the platform for that. And then you essentially work out your offer. Everything is delivered through ACX. It has to meet ACX requirements. And it gives you a little bit of, not only it helps you find people, so you're not just going out trying to find narrators and voice artists in the wild, but it also gives you the opportunity to, excuse me, I'm still getting over my cold. It also gives you the opportunity to kind of collaborate with different people on a platform that protects you a little bit. Didn't mean to use that finger. So also it just protects you a little bit. And so then you can work through that way. An audiobook on the very, very short side is going to take 6 to 8 weeks, probably. On the longer side, depending on how much is going into it, how long it is, how many artists you have, different things like that. It can take 6 months, even a year. I've seen it take for bigger cast, and depending on how the different artists' voices are put in together. So it can be fairly quick, can take kind of longer, but that is how you would get started with an audiobook. And as far as that, for ACX, it's just, was it acx.com? It's just acx.com. It really could not be more simple. And I was just doing that with a author that I work with. And so it's all fresh in my mind. Good question. Good timing. Which is better for an audiobook at this time? Findaway Voices and expanded distribution or ACX exclusive? That is a good question. And I know you love this answer. It depends on your goals, but let me tell you the difference. If you are going ACX exclusive, if you're doing a royalty share because you're on a tight budget, hey, you work within the means that you have. So if you're doing a royalty share and you've got it exclusive, it is what it is. When you're exclusive with ACX, you do earn a higher royalty on Audible. You get a 40% royalty. So it's higher, but it means your book can only sell on Audible and iTunes. So it does pigeonhole you just a little bit. If you go non-exclusive, then you get a 25% royalty. 25% is pretty standard on most audiobook platforms. It's woefully low compared to ebooks, but that's a whole different bunny trail. So I will say that you do get lower royalties. However, you have more sales platforms. And depending on your book and the type of book it is and where people consume those books, it may make sense. So if you're going non-exclusive, you can still upload to ACX for Audible and iTunes, or just Audible. And then you can take your book to Findaway Voices and upload it for Kobo, Overdrive for libraries, Hoopla, Bibliotheca, all of those places, as well as Chirp Books. And Chirp Books is the platform that ties in to the discount newsletter that is it's like the sister program of BookBub. So they put out discount books, and it can be a fantastic way to reach a ton of audiobook listeners with discounted audiobooks. And that's a really great program. I think that's valuable. It also gets your book up on Spotify. So for example, if your book is, if you have a romance book, typically, I'm generalizing, but if you have like a rom-com, a popular romance book, many times those listeners are going to be on Audible anyway. It's just how it is. It's where the market is. But if you have a a business book, you have a business book, it's a nonfiction business book that you have, Audible's great. iTunes probably gets a lot of your consumers, but also Spotify's really doing well with nonfiction audiobooks. Overdrive for libraries can do very well for audiobooks, and Chirp Books, because many people in that nonfiction business space are not on the subscription of Audible. They are buying books as wanted, as needed, and they're doing that from places like Chirp Books or iTunes. And so going non-exclusive for you may make more sense, even though you get a lower royalty through Audible. So, as often is the case, it depends on you. It depends on how much control you want and what you're going to do for it. Having your book up on Chirp Books, if you're never going to apply for a discount promo deal, it's not going to hurt you, but it's not really going to help you. If your audiobook is something that would be popular in other countries, in the US, we tend to be Amazon driven. We tend to read more on Kindle Unlimited, buy more from Amazon, and listen more on Audible. But outside of the US, Canada, for example, uses Kobo a ton. They're more likely to buy directly from Barnes and Noble. Same thing in certain other countries. They're not as Amazon centric. So depending on your book, it may make a lot of sense to go non-exclusive. And I also have to mention that I've seen some authors killing it. A lot of romance authors actually killing it where they go non-exclusive. They're uploading their book to YouTube. So they're building their YouTube following. They're putting their book up for free on YouTube. And because they have so many subscribers and watch hours, they're getting paid by YouTube. They're diversifying their income streams because now their book, if they have an audiobook, an ebook, and a paperback, let's say. I've seen a lot of romance authors in particular do this, cozy mystery authors also. They will put their ebook up on Amazon, go exclusive, and do Kindle Unlimited because that's where their readership is. They have their paperback and they're uploading it to KDP for Amazon and Ingram Spark for the bookstore or library markets and wider distribution there. Then they're taking their audiobook and going non-exclusive. They're uploading their audiobook to YouTube so that they are then building their audience there and they're getting paid for the watch hours from YouTube. And so they're getting paid from YouTube and they're uploading their book to ACX for Amazon and they're uploading their book to Findaway Voices for that wide distribution for libraries and Chirp and different things. They have now made it so they are earning income from Amazon, YouTube, Findaway Voices, and Ingram Spark. They've got 4 different places they're earning income from. So if Amazon goes crazy one day and shuts their account down, I've seen it, then guess what? They still have income. They still have a way to diversify their income. So it depends on what you're doing with all of it, but is it a hobby or is it a business? How much do you want to put into it? Do you want to kind of set it and forget it because you got it out there and if it sells, you're really happy? Or do you want to maximize your profits, opportunity, and income? The answer to that question may change what you decide to do with all of your books, honestly. I think it just changes because when you have a business plan, you're looking at a bigger overall picture compared to, I really hope my book sells, or I wrote this book and I wanted to do as well as I can. Your business plan is going to change that, or your decision of how much you're wanting it to kind of be a business for you. And as Jenny said, it's really important to realize that it takes money to make money, whether you are investing in training for yourself or you are investing in advertising, whatever it is, it takes money to make money. So do you have the money? Are you preparing to spend money to make that successful? If you can only afford the AI version now or the KDP virtual voice, if you make money, can you take that version down and have it redone by a live person later? So virtual voice is fairly new, I'm telling you what I understand to be true as of today. That may change. As of today, you can unpublish a virtual voice book. And then I believe that you can then go make a new audiobook and put it up. I will say that I have asked in several very large author groups now that virtual voice has been out for a while. I put out the question, hey guys, of everyone who's done virtual voice, because within the first like 6 months or something of virtual voice becoming available, 40,000 titles had been made into an audiobook using the virtual voice feature on KDP. 40,000. And I went into some really big author groups and I put out the ask, hey, has anyone really seen sales? Is anyone seeing profits? And every single time I had some people say, yeah, some people use it. It's something that, it's available. I feel like it's accessibility. I did not find even one single author who said, yes, it's making a difference in my income in any big way. So I think that's important to note. I am not here to judge you or tell you what to do with whether it's AI or however you're publishing, but I will say that some readers are off put by using that virtual voice. So if you're getting a consumer over to your sales page and all they see is virtual voice and all they do is listen to audiobooks and they're like, oh, you have an audiobook. It's virtual voice. They're not coming back. They're not going to come back later. And if it's not really going to move you forward, is it worth doing it and potentially getting in that gray area with readers? Again, you have to know your audience. There are some authors out there who are doing everything with AI. They're writing entire books with AI and they're very open about it. They're making a killing because the people reading their books do not care. They like the stories they're putting out, how they're using the AI, and they don't care. You have to know who your audience is and then kind of move from there and make your own decisions. But is virtual voice going to be a big money maker? From what I've seen so far, the answer is no. And of course, that can change. Um, and that may be different for some people. There's going to be someone who's going to see this video eventually and they're going to be like, Gary, you're lying because I've made money on it. Okay, I believe you, but I don't think that's standard or, what most people are seeing. Do you know what drawing app to use? So you start in CMYK format. Also want to download so I can use offline. I believe Photoshop might be able to do that. So this is just a type of color and printing file. There's RBG and CMYK, and one is better for printing on, or one's better for digital color and one is better for print files because of just the way colors work. I'm no artist, as everyone who knows me knows. And so I'm not about to go into color theory, but some colors certainly will print better when you stay within, the natural colors and colors that we print with. And some colors we can really amp up for um, online and for digital use. And so that is why sometimes you'll see the different types. And so I'm sorry, did I say RBG? It's RGB is best for digital use. It's really a punchier kind of color, but for printing, it's CMYK. So if you are illustrating, designing, finding a program that works in CMYK can be very important. Photoshop, I believe, does that. I'm not sure what other things because as I said, I'm no artist. But if anyone else has experience, you can always drop it in the chat. And I would personally just be um, searching directly for a program. I would be Googling it and also whatever project you're working on, download it in CMYK and look at it. It does change the color slightly. It's not going to be as vibrant because it's real life color, not digital color. And as we know, digital can do all sorts of crazy cool things. All right. I think we answered all of the questions. Oh, Bob is the best. Cheryl, If you want to email Bob, he's graciously put his information out there. He was an art director, he's an artist, and um he's exquisite. That's all I can say. Absolutely brilliant with art and color. So he's graciously put his information up there if you want to grab his email and reach out to him. Thank you for that, Bob. We appreciate that. All right. If anyone else has a question, I've got a minute or two more, but I think we got through most of them. We will be back for normal Free Advice Friday next Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. We're kind of getting into the holidays and all that kind of thing. So maybe we'll kind of take a look at what a holiday marketing plan might look like for those of you who don't know. For print books, especially, we see 40% of print books sell between November and January. 40% of the books that sell all year round will sell from November to January. So the market does get a little bit more crowded with advertising around the holiday season, but also, putting yourself out there, thinking about marketing yourself for the holidays and for that big sales rush. Um, can be a really smart thing. It's not that you have to do everything or spend thousands of dollars, but what are you going to do to make sure that if your book is kind of considered as like giftable, if it's a coffee table book or a cookbook or a children's book, what are you going to do to make sure it gets in front of those people so that you can get your little piece of that 40%? Or if you have a holiday title, now's the time to start. Now's when people start, as soon as it gets a little chilly and the leaves start changing, as I literally watch leaves fall in my backyard, that's when people start thinking about like Christmas titles and books and things like that. So that's something that maybe we will look a little into next week. But in the meantime, thank you for being here. It's always such a joy to start Friday off like this. So thank you for being here. We will see you next Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.